Welcome back to Bring It Home. Really excited about our guest today, Greg Sharrow, the CEO and founder of Sharrow Marine. He's invented a high-tech boat propeller that he's building right here in the U.S. in Detroit. Really excited to have Greg on the show. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So Greg, first things first. If you look up Sharrow Marine, you go to the website, you see the propeller. The first thing someone will notice is that it has a very unusual shape. Instead of blades, I guess, cutting the water or something like that, we have these interesting looping structure. Tell me about this propeller, its shape and its characteristics. How does it work?
And so our propeller doesn't have traditional tips, and that means we don't have a traditional tip vortice. And traditional tip vortices are a source of induced loss and cavitation. They are the bane of existence for traditional propellers. And engineers have been trying to minimize the negative effects of tip vortices since propellers were invented. My invention essentially eliminates or dramatically reduces the tip vortices because we don't have that traditional tip. And people have called this the greatest advancement in propeller technology in over 2 centuries because of that, because it doesn't have that traditional tip. And it moves water in a completely different way, in a much more efficient way.
Tell me the story of how you invented this.
So I was working in the video production field, tried to solve the problem of unwanted noise during a video production shoot. I wanted to fly a drone over an orchestra. For 15 years, I specialized in filming orchestras and broadcasting them around the world. And I had this idea to fly a drone over an orchestra, but I couldn't because the drone was too noisy. And the noisiest part of the drone is the blade, specifically the blade tip and the vortices that are created by the tip of the blade. And so I thought, well, if I'm going to fly it over an orchestra, I can't just make the tip smaller. I have to eliminate it completely. And so I asked the very simple question, what would a tipless propeller look like and how would it function? And I went to bed asking that question. I woke up the next day asking that question. And while I was walking my dog that very next morning, this idea just popped in my head. That was 12 and a half, 13 years ago. And now we have over 200 patents around the world. Stood up manufacturing in Detroit, Michigan. We're working through our 3rd expansion in 4 years right now. Our last facility was a 24,000 square foot facility. We're expanding into a 60,000 square foot facility so we can make 2,000 propellers a month, which is quadruple our current manufacturing capacity, and just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the annual propellers that are made for outboard applications. There are over 2 million made a year. And so at 2,000 a month, we're just scratching the surface. And that doesn't even take into account all the other applications that the technology can be applied to. If you have a standard propeller, it could and should be replaced by a Sharrow because of the efficiency benefits alone, not including reduced noise and vibration. And so our mission is to replace every propeller on Earth. And we started here in Detroit in 2020, and we're moving as fast as we can.
And tell me a little bit about the design and construction of these propellers. Are they made out of exotic materials? Again, I'm interested in sort of the shape and how you machine those parts.
So they're actually very difficult to manufacture. And we use a different manufacturing method for each application. For outboards specifically that we have in production right now, we use stainless steel, which is the same basic type of material that is used for standard outboard propellers. We do some special things to the stainless steel to make it even stronger than traditional propellers are. And then we CNC machine the blades out of a casting. And so traditional blades are, for outboards, are made net shape. And that means that they're manufactured in the shape that they're ultimately going to be. Very little material is removed from the blades when they come out of the casting. It's very different than the process we use. We have extra material on all the blade surfaces and the hub surfaces that we CNC machine away, from the casting, and that yields a propeller that is, over 10 times more CAD accurate than standard blade technology, and it also gives us the ability to make any propeller that we need to, because we're not locked into a hard tool. And so because we've adopted this very unique manufacturing method, we have essentially limitless production models. And that means we have more propellers in production out in the field than all of the major propeller manufacturers combined, production models, that is.
Yeah, I noticed that. I noticed on your website that customers could order like a sort of a stand, they would put in the characteristics of their boat, and they could order standard propellers, or you could even make custom propellers and ship them in as little as like 90 days. Tell me about sort of the calculations and considerations that go into getting your customer the right propeller for their boat.
That's a great question. Typically, when you buy a standard propeller, there are things called prop wizards that you can use to put in some information that for your boat and your motor, how you use your boat, how fast you go, etc. The weight of your boat, whether it's a runabout or if it's a center console, and we do something very similar. We ask very specific information from our customers, and then that information gives us what we need to size them with the perfect propeller. And that process is very unique. People buy directly from us, from our website. That's not typically how outboard propellers are sold. Usually we'll work directly with a dealer or a distributor. And so customers have that direct connection to Sharrow when they order, and they're assigned an account manager for their order from the day that they begin, and that account manager follows them through and ensures that they get the best propeller for their application. And all of our propellers come with a satisfaction guarantee, which is also very unique. We have a 30-day satisfaction guarantee, and we're the only propeller company that I'm aware of that does that. We're so confident that you're going to love it that we will let you try it for 30 days. And if you're not completely satisfied, you can return it. And so that gives the customer, a lot of confidence going into the purchase process, because it is expensive. Our propellers are 5 to 10 times more expensive than a traditional propeller, but that comes with the custom fitting and all the customer service that comes with that too.
And kind of synthesizing a lot of the data from the performance reports that are available on your website, it seems like boats that use Sharrow propellers achieve noticeably higher speeds at the same engine RPM, dramatic reductions in fuel burn, and ability to stay on plane at a lower RPM. Am I missing anything?
Those are the main benefits. There are a lot of other benefits as well, but just to go through them again. One of the biggest benefits you notice when you turn the ignition is you have better controllability at the dock. And so people ask me, what is the ROI on your propellers? And I tell them it's the second you put the key in your ignition and you turn it, because you have immediate control that you don't have. Even if you have joystick control, you don't have as much control as you do with the Sharrow propeller. You can parallel park a boat with a single engine with a Sharrow.
And that's just by virtue of how it moves the water at low RPMs, or?
So we're so much more efficient at directional control compared to a standard propeller. When a standard propeller is in a bollard condition, bollard means you're not moving, and it starts to move. Water is slipping off the tips of the blades, and you're not directing that thrust forward or back. In a very specific channel, the way that you would with the Sharrow propeller. When the Sharrow propeller turns, whether it's going forward or back, the water is really channeled through the propeller disc, And so you get a massive amount of directed thrust, that's either forward or backwards, and it gives you directional control that you just don't get with the standard prop. You can control a boat in reverse with a Sharrow propeller the way that you can going forward. So you can drive backwards like you're going forward. And typically, when you're going backwards with an outboard, you turn the wheel, and then it takes 2, 3, 4 seconds for the boat to actually start moving that direction. And so maneuvering your boat in tight quarters requires you really understanding your boat and your motor, and then also being able to take into account the wind and the waves and take all that in as an operator to make the right moves at the right time to get the boat to go the right direction. With the Sharrow, it just goes where you want it to go when you put the throttle on and change the direction of the motor. So there's a huge safety factor there, and that's the controllability of the dock, huge, number one. And then when you start going out and you're underway, you notice that it feels like you're on a rail. Standard boats, you feel like you're on a boat. You're kind of floating around as you're going through the water. With the Sharrow, you feel like you are on a rail, that you are just being pulled through the water instead of being pushed through the water. People tell me it feels like it's like the difference between an automatic gear shifting on their car or a stick shift, that it just feels so smooth, like you're just being pulled through the water. And one of the reasons for that is because our propellers are less susceptible to angle of attack, which means angle of attack means the angle that the water is coming, at the propeller while it's rotating and generating thrust. Standard propellers are very sensitive to that. They're designed to go forward, and water isn't always hitting the blade from the forward direction. As you're moving through the water is hitting the blade from the sides, because you're going through, a medium water that isn't still. It is always moving. And so since our propellers are literally designed to pull in water from the sides and from the front, that it's always generating thrust, no matter what velocity water is hitting the blade, from the front or from the side perspective. And so that means it's just way smoother as you're going through the water. You feel like you're on rails, and then you start increasing the RPMs. The most incredible thing you start to notice is the boat is going faster per RPM, and not just a little bit faster, a lot faster. And when you hit 3,000 RPMs, typically the boat is starting to climb up off a plane. You're going at 13 miles an hour. It is not uncommon for people to be comfortably on plane at 3,000 RPMs with the Sharrow, which means 26 miles an hour. And that means you're going twice as fast with the exact same RPM. If you look at all the data on our website, you'll notice that there is this very, very, very strong trend with every boat that you see on our website, and every customer has our props. In the mid-range RPMs, between 2,500 and 4,000 RPMs, you can see as much double the speed per RPM. And it's because we are so much more efficient at continuing to generate thrust under heavy loaded conditions. The propeller just doesn't break down. It's like all-wheel drive. It's like being on snow with snow tires. The propeller just grips in a way standard props just don't. When people try our technology, they come back to the dock, and some things that we've heard many times are, I feel like my old propeller was a flat tire compared to this. It's that different. It's difficult to explain. I know that as I'm telling you this right now, you're absorbing the words, you're thinking about it. When you experience it, there's this huge aha moment, because it's so different than a regular propeller that it really does require experiencing it, because it's a paradigm shift in the application and performance gains. And then when you're on plane, you'll notice, because you can go 1,000 RPMs, because you have so much more speed per RPM, that you are able to get on plane about 1,000 RPMs lower, somewhere between 500 to 1,000 RPMs lower. And then you maintain plane at lower RPMs, which is really a big deal in bad weather conditions. Typically in bad weather conditions, you can't operate your boat on plane because it isn't safe, because typically boats don't stay on plane lower than 30 miles an hour, for most boats, most V hulls. And it's not safe in rough weather conditions to be going 30 miles an hour. You really want to go like 22, 23, but you can't with a regular prop because it won't hold the boat on plane. with all the waves coming and hitting the boat from the side, from all the different angles that they are hitting the props. They just can't grip, and so you really have to go at your minimum speed before getting on a plane, like 11 miles an hour, and that's not fun. And going 11 miles an hour in a storm. And so being able to maintain a low planing speed is another huge safety factor. And, in that reason alone, once you try a Sharrow prop, you'll never go back for that one reason alone, because it gives you that safety factor when you're out of the water and you never know when a storm is going to hit, and you want to be able to maintain that plane. And then you have incredible handling at high speed turns. When I say incredible, I mean incredible. You could be going 50 miles an hour and you could grab the wheel. And I know what I'm about to say is going to sound crazy, because it is. But you can whip the wheel as fast as you humanly can pull the wheel, and the boat will not break free. It will just turn like you're in a car and you're on a racetrack. And it's because our propeller is designed to pull in water from the sides, and a standard prop isn't. So when you're going really fast with a standard prop and you make a hard turn, you are turning the tip of you're putting the tip of the propeller into oncoming water flow. And so it just loses all grip. And with our prop, you're actually feeding the propeller when you do that. And so you have this incredible grip when you're doing high speed turns. And then reverse. When you are reversing the propeller, you have up to 50% more reverse thrust. Studies that other propeller companies have done on our technology, third-party reviews, have concluded that you can turn your boat 100% faster with the Sharrow, exact same RPM. And so you have this incredible backing down capability, which is really big for fishing. Backing down is big. And so as we go into these other market segments like Sharrow by Veeam, which is the large inboard propellers that we're now doing with Veeam in Australia, that ability to back down is a big deal. And that combined with the reduced noise and vibration. So when you're out on the boat, you can have a conversation like the one we're having right now when you're going 30 miles an hour, because it's 20 dB quieter. We've measured it many, many times, and we've measured somewhere between 15 to 20 dB as a maximum reduction in sound at specific operating points for the technology, and that is massive. Any audio engineer knows, because of the logarithmic scale, what the magnitude of 15 to 20 dB is. For government applications, 20 dB means you can get 4 times closer to your enemy before they hear you coming. And that's one of the reasons our technology is being adopted now by government military. And so that reduced detectability that comes with reduced noise and vibration, combined with all of the enhanced controllability functions of the propeller, make it a true game-changing technology. And so I knew the moment that I invented it, I wanted to bring manufacturing back here to Detroit. And we fulfilled that dream by moving back in 2020. And now we're expanding again into a new facility in the old Eastland Mall.
Yeah, I want to talk about manufacturing in Detroit in the 21st century. What was it like for you were you manufacturing somewhere else initially and then you brought it back here, or how did that work? And then just tell me about the experience of setting up these facilities, finding the talent, bringing the machines in, your supply chains and things like that. I'm interested in how all of that works.
So Detroit is still the best place to make something in the world if you want to make something that's difficult to manufacture. And I learned that by
and that's because of the people, or
it's the talent that exists here is amazing. And so I traveled the world trying to find somewhere else to make it, and before deciding to move the company back to Detroit. I'm born and raised in Detroit. I started the company in Philadelphia. I developed all the technology out in Philadelphia. We spent 8 years in R&D. And then when I had to decide where am I going to make this thing, I traveled the world looking for a location. And I began to partner with companies that were on the West Coast and overseas. And I just wasn't happy with the quality, and I wasn't happy with the timing. And so I decided to move my company to Detroit in March of 2020. Not knowing anybody here who could help me with manufacturing, but just knowing if I moved the company here, I would find the right people. And so moving here in March of 2020, 3 days before the world shut down, we closed on our home 3 days before the entire world shut down. And even with the entire world being shut down, within 3 months, I was up and running manufacturing here in Detroit. I partnered with a local.
So you were able to
tool.
you were able to get up and get running when everyone else is shutting down.
Yes, yeah, and it's because the talent is here, and the people want to work, and there's an incredible enthusiasm in this town to make things because they've been doing it for over 100 years. This is the country that built the world through the automotive revolution. And so that talent is still here. I partnered with fourth generation tool makers when I moved here. And they were able to do in 30 minutes what I couldn't find anyone else in the world could do in less than 4 weeks to program a propeller. And so through partnering with local tool makers and then finding shops that could help us with the polishing, and then partnering with casting suppliers, I was able to do all the manufacturing here in the Midwest. We have 4 partners for our castings. Yamaha is one of them. We partnered with Yamaha a few years ago. They're one of our casting suppliers, and our technology is available through their distribution network. And so they make our castings. They use US ingot. Everything is made in the USA. And then we take the castings and we CNC machine them in our facility. In 2020, when I moved the company here, everything was spread out throughout the city. We were still using a polishing, company out in New Jersey, and so our propellers were being shipped to New Jersey back and forth for polishing. And then we found and developed a polishing solution for here. And so now everything except for the casting is done here at our facility. And so the casting comes in, and a propeller comes out on the other end in a box. And every box is made in Detroit. And we hire incredible local talent to do the work.
And you're planning on ramping up to 2,000 propellers a month. What's your employee head count? How many machines do you have? What does your factory look like?
So we have 30 employees, and we're planning on doubling that number in the next 2 to 3 years in our new facility. We have enough machines right now to make 400 propellers a month, and we are increasing the amount of machines that we have so we can make up to 2,000. At full capacity, we can make even closer to 3,000. But initially, we're growing to be able to do 2,000 units a month. And so it's really exciting, to be building in an empty shell this advanced manufacturing facility. If somebody told me this is what I'd be doing 15 years ago, I would say you're crazy. But we're doing it here in Detroit. Incredibly proud to be generating and creating new jobs. And for people who really want to work, who are incredibly talented, it's been quite an adventure.
That's awesome. I love the city. We were talking before the show. I used to live in Metro Detroit, and I've always been rooting for it, and just so impressed by, like you said, the enthusiasm for making things. People there, they know the city's history. They're incredibly proud of it, and it's a very rich culture of manufacturing and advancing technology.
I agree, and it's interesting. People ask me a lot, well, do you have trouble finding talent? I said, no. There's an abundance of talent here, and people ask me, why did you move your company to Detroit? Why didn't you offshore this? And we were doing this before it was before tariffs. We were doing this before it was popular to be making in the United States. I knew the day that I invented this 13 years ago that I was going to use this as an opportunity to bring propeller manufacturing back to the U.S. And that's what we're doing. And large propellers really aren't made here anymore. They're all made overseas. But because I have the patents for it all over the world, a patent or a patent pending in any and every country in the world that has 2 or more shipyards. We have the ability here to control where the technology is made globally. And my goal is to make it all in America and to make really big propellers, small propellers, HVAC propellers, inline flow propellers, drone propellers, you name it. If it's a propeller, it's a rotary device. If it moves air, moves water, it should be a Sharrow propeller. And our goal is to do that. I really, truly believe we can do that here in Detroit.
That's amazing. Looking at the site, I saw a lot of just sort of, recreational boats, fishing boats, but you mentioned high speed turns. So I'm thinking about like, high performance or like racing applications. And I'm also wondering how big these propellers could get. I mean, could you put one on a destroyer, for example?
We can. The largest one we've ever designed is 30 feet in diameter. Destroyer propellers are around 20 and 22 feet in diameter. And we haven't manufactured the 30-foot one, but we did extensive testing and model testing, and we were able to verify that it was over 12.2% more efficient than the Wageningen B series screw, which is a massive efficiency gain for displacement vessels. And so there are over 100,000 container ships in the world. 90% of world trade is carried out by container ships. That's not going to change anytime soon. No. Technology that could increase efficiency by 10 to 15% for the container ship market is game changing.
Fuel is a major cost. It's also a huge source of emissions and despite
pollution,
recent IMO regulations and things like that.
Yeah, it is, and our technology can offer incredible gains, and so we're looking at applying the technology to that market segment, and also for government and military applications. I can't talk about specifically what we're doing, but I can tell you we're looking at large format propellers because there's a need for the propellers for larger vessels for government and military applications to be efficient and quiet. And so we're working on them.
Speaking of military applications, Anduril is one of the hottest defense contractors at the moment. We covered when they announced the construction of a $1 billion drone factory in Columbus, Ohio. Really interesting company. Palmer Luckey, a very famous figure in American technology. You guys recently inked a partnership with Anduril to put your propeller on their submersible autonomous vehicle, Copperhead. Can you talk about that, at least at a high level? I'm super interested in what the vehicle's for and sort of what kinds of requirements motivated them to seek you out.
So Anduril is an amazing company. We're very aligned in that our goals for both companies are to put the best technology in the hands of the warfighter and do it in the most efficient way possible. And so there's a lot of synergy between what Anduril is doing and what Sharrow is also doing for government applications. And we've been working with them for a little over a year on different projects. I can't speak about anything that we're doing other than Copperhead, which was announced this year in space. Copperhead is a very unique AUV platform, and our technology is being integrated to make it more efficient and quieter. And so, as we continue to do things with Anduril, you'll be finding out more about the work that we're doing together. Anduril is an incredible company. They have an incredible mission, and we're just really proud to be aligned with what they are doing and the transformation that they are achieving in the government defense sector.
That's great. And are there any other big customers or partnerships that you would like to talk about? Just areas you're going in. I mean, you mentioned propellers for many different kinds of applications. So I'm interested to hear where I'll see Sharrow propellers next.
Yeah, so we started in the outboard sector, and then We partnered with Yamaha, and so they're an incredible partner. They're largest outboard propeller manufacturer and outboard manufacturer globally, and so that gives us incredible reach, globally for the technology. And recently, just about 2 years ago, we announced that we partnered with Veeam, an Australian-based company that manufactures inboard propellers. They are the global leader for inboard propeller designs. They can make them up to 15 feet in diameter. And so we entered into a global collaboration and licensing agreement where we design the propellers and they manufacture them. And we are entering into what we're calling an acceleration phase in our partnership, where we are delivering 75 sets of propellers to customers in North America, and we're moving from that acceleration program into full blown production. And so Veeam has before partnering with Sharrow had dominated the world in inboard propellers, and now by adopting what we're calling the Sharrow by Veeam, they truly will achieve world domination in the inboard propeller market. And so we're proud to be partnered with them. Their manufacturing capability is exquisite. It's unbelievable. We had to be very discerning in who we selected to manufacture our large inboard propellers, and they put the same attention and detail into their manufacturing for large format props that we do for smaller format propellers. So they're really the best partner that we could hope for inboard. And we're rolling out the product right now. And inboard propellers are they're what's used for any non-outboard application. So there's a massive market, and we're excited to be engaged in that. Beyond marine, we are developing drone blades. So
I was going to ask you if you ever got the drone quiet enough to broadcast classical music.
Yeah, so I've told the story of how I thought of this technology probably over 1,000 times now. You are the fifth person to ask me, did you ever get that shot? So very few people ask that follow-up question. And the answer is we are developing it for that application. We started in water because it was quicker, easier, and faster. And we did all of our early testing at University of Michigan. And when we were ready to go out of the testing tank, we had developed and tested in water. So we went to water to see if our lab results were directly portable to the real world, and they were. And so it was always the plan to come full circle and develop it for air. We do have flying drones. We are developing now applications for government that are for drones, and it's going to be a big part of our business in the future because drones are going to be such a part of everybody's everyday life in the future, and they're going to need to be quiet, they're going to need to be efficient, and we solve both of those issues. And so we're developing there, and then HVAC is another thing that we're developing for, an inline flow. Inline flow is used for moving fuel, moving waste, moving water, irrigation. Think of every pool in the world and the energy they consume to keep the pools clean. That energy is being consumed to move water through a filter. And so if you could save 30% on the energy that's being used to filter water for a pool, that market segment is huge. And so I tell people it's kind of like owning the color blue. Where do you begin? And we knew from day one it's going to be everywhere because everybody on Earth, if you're sitting if you're not in a desert and you're in an area surrounded by other people, you're surrounded by propellers, and they're ubiquitous to modern life. And we can and should replace all of them. And so where do you begin? Where do you end? It really comes down to strong partnerships for manufacturing and scaling the technology for design. And so our true secret weapon is the code that we've developed that generates the geometry. We have a unique theory of operation that defines the geometry. We spent years developing the code that defines the geometry, and that code protects us more than the patents. Because it's our secret sauce. If you apply standard blade theory to this shape, it makes it worse. And so we have different ways of optimizing the propeller for any mission, and to make sure that it generates the required thrust, for whatever torque it's consuming at a specific RPM. And we can do that all in a computer and then manufacture the blade knowing that we're going to hit our targets within 1%. And that capability is really what's going to give this technology the capability to scale globally. Using traditional manufacturing methods that are being used for standard blades right now, we can use those for this, but it's the design of the technology that really sets us apart, and gives us the ability to spread the technology throughout the world.
Greg, that's an amazing story, and thanks for sharing it. Really inspirational. I love the idea that basically a single inventor came up with this new concept. You're building it in America. It's revolutionizing multiple industries, and like you said, has the potential to replace every propeller on Earth with something that works so much better. Thanks for coming on the show. That does it for this episode. You can catch us at bringithome.us. You can watch this episode on YouTube, listen to us on Apple Podcasts, hit subscribe and like and all that good stuff, and we will catch you next time.